You're watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.
It's a free-for-all Friday with my good friend John Morosi, who we used to work together at Fox. Old teammates back on the same team.
We never stop being teammates, Dan. It's first of all, what I would say. First and foremost, great to be with you. We are going to revive the Arbor Games, which we'll explain to our audience as this goes along. Also, my favorite thing while working with you at FS1 was we'd be getting ready for a baseball segment sometime, winter meetings in December, and then you and I just have some fun with the producer would say, hey, wait a minute, we're actually going to break down the Canadian and U.S. rosters for the World Juniors. We're talking about who should be starting in goal for Team Canada. And then all the producers in LA were saying, well, what are you guys talking about? What are the World Juniors? I'm not familiar with any of this. And like, don't worry, we got this. It's all good. We would have so much fun, Toolsy. I loved working with you. Still to this day, it's just great to hear your voice again. Thank you.
You are a great talent in which you can talk about any subject. So if you could handpick one sport where you had to cover only that sport for the rest of your life, which one would it be?
This is a really, really tough question. I would answer hockey. I really do. I think it's just so much fun. And maybe because I feel as though after covering baseball for as long as I have, there is more ground for me to cover, more things for me to learn in hockey. I guess what I would say. I love baseball, and certainly it's my first love, and so maybe I'm kind of giving you two answers right now. But I love baseball because I do know maybe a bit more of the backstory and the people and the long sweep of the stories. But hockey is that perfect balance for me where I know plenty about it, but not enough, if that makes sense. So I love the learning process and just the journey of it all. And both sports are great. I love that both have a real international dynamic. And I suppose maybe the reason why I'm telling you hockey now, Toolsy, is because I've got it in my mind as an Italian-American that the sporting event that I most want to attend in my life are the Olympics next year in Milan, because my mom's family is from just outside of Milan. The first best-on-best Olympic hockey tournament in 12 years. There's something about it where it feels like it's in my hometown of sorts. So I would say that is the event that is most in my heart right now.
Yeah, that Four Nations face-off showed how much people missed the best in the world playing for their countries.
Oh, it really did. And actually, I was up. I brought my wife to the game, the U.S.-Canada game in Montreal. So we were there. And just to be in the building that night, I bought the tickets in probably January, maybe even December, hoping that it would be what it became. And if anything, Dan, I underestimated how great it was going to be. Just to be in the building that night, the pace of that game, the ferocity of it, the three fights. It's funny. My wife is not really a sports fan, so I was sitting next to her, and as she saw the third fight going on, as JT Miller is fighting Colton Parayko, she says, "John, is this normal?" I said, "No, none of this is normal. What's happening right now?" And that's why it's so great, and why we've been waiting for it for so long. But just what a night, and certainly maybe a bit of a foreshadowing of other things we'll talk about. The part about that game that stood out to me the most, yeah, there were the fights, but was the amazing 200-foot game that Matthews played that night. How great he was defensively and as a distributor. And I'm wondering if you're seeing some of that same style of play that he had in the U.S. sweater in February, now with the Leafs, which I think makes Toronto a much more dangerous hockey team right now.
So we're going to talk about the Leafs in a second, but I was thinking this yesterday because up here in Canada on Sportsnet, a very popular show that they play is Jays in 30. And it's very easy to edit a baseball game down to 30 minutes because there's not a lot of action. But they try to do that with hockey too. And that's where it really hits you in the face. You're like, it doesn't stop. It just doesn't. How do you edit a hockey game down to 30 minutes? While baseball, you're like, yeah, you just throw every hit in there. You're done. You could probably get it in at 23 minutes if you wanted.
It's a great point, Dan. I think part of the challenge there, and you think about the way a hockey game flows, you're right. Because baseball, you can boil it down to the individual moments. Okay, there's a ball in play here, a big strikeout there. But in hockey, so often, a goal is the result of an icing or a sustained push by the team to tilt the ice back in their favor, or as it also often happens, the way in which there's a goal scored against the flow of play, and there was a quick counterattack, and one team has been dominating, and all of a sudden, boom, a quick turn of events. I think we saw that in Game 3, Leafs and Sens. For me, the biggest play of the whole game was the Stolarz save on Cousins shorthanded. If Ottawa scores there, it's a 2-0 lead, and who knows, maybe that later power play goal by the Leafs doesn't even happen, and it's a totally different game. And so you would miss that if you were only going with the goals, so to speak. So that's why it's so important to have the context, the way the lines are matching up, the emotion in a building. There's just so much that goes into watching a hockey game, and I love. To me, one of the things I love about going to a game in Canada, Toolsy, is that certainly there's a ton of passion and enthusiasm all around it. But also there are times where the rink will get a little bit quieter, and it's not because there's a lack of emotional investment. It's because everybody's watching the game so carefully. And they're watching the line matchups. They're watching to maybe second guess an offside call or an icing call. It's more in the reaction of being in the building, and that's the kind of stuff that you really only get when you're in an engaged building.
Or they're nervous. Like last night in Ottawa, before they scored the tying goal, that building went from very loud to deathly quiet back to loud again because it was nerves. They're like, our season's on the line here. I can't breathe.
Right, and that's where you can feel. We talk about why Bob Cole was so great for so long. I think Bob just understood how the noise of the crowd was another actor in the play, if you will. Like he was able to, almost as the maestro, to know when the crowd would tell the story and just to lay out. And that's just, you only get that in the Stanley Cup Finals or a big game in Toronto or Montreal on a Saturday night in any month of the year, of course. But I think that's where hockey games and the noise of them and the passion of them tell the story. The noise of the building itself is one of the key elements that all of us who are involved in storytelling have at our disposal. Yeah,
hearing Bob Cole in the montages they put together, the Battle of Ontario was awesome. Yes. So the Leafs win last night, and man, I feel for the Sens because they go to overtime. They could be down 2-1 in a series. Instead, they're down 3-0. That's how massive Game 3 is when you're in a 2-0 hole. And now Leafs fans, I know a lot of them, they've got it in their brains. They're starting to think, is this the year?
Well, here's what I would say. If there was ever going to be a year, it would start out exactly the way it started out. And by that, I mean a few things stand out to me. Number one, their first power play unit is mesmerizing. The puck movement that they have as a group is just so much fun to watch, Dan. And just the ability they have to thread the puck in tight spaces. The first unit scored in every single game so far in this series. So you've got a power play with elite talent that's functioning at a high level. The pass by Marner to Matthews was just one of the best you'll see anywhere, the timing and the sense of it. So the power play is going great. You're getting supplemental scoring from guys you would not necessarily expect. The OT winners so far have been Domi and Benoit, not what you necessarily thought would happen. And then Stolarz has been, I think, excellent. And yes. I referenced the save against Cousins. That's a game-saving play. And he made another big save on Cousins late, I believe, too. Another key game of this series, of course. So I just think that it's all coming together. And I love Stolarz as a story as well. Somewhat of a journeyman goaltender whose career was never obvious until this year, I would say, Dan, that Stolarz would be in net for the Toronto Maple Leafs on a playoff run. I mean, he's had a long journey in the game, multiple stops, and I love his story. He's sort of the underdog, really upbeat, happy story on a team that's done a lot of that's played in a lot of tight playoff series. There's been a lot of disappointment there. I think he's almost the perfect guy to have back there, Dan. That he kind of is he's just a refreshing story and sort of the underdog to root for on a team of overdogs that are all supposed to win, right? I think he's a really charming story in that way, and he's playing great. I think defensively they tighten up a bit as well, which has been good to see. I think Carlos had a really good series, so I'm just impressed by the overall group. I know Leafs fans are not going to want to even think about anything being sewn up because it's not, but they're playing really well.
But I'll put this into Leafs fans' brains. The East, you mentioned how maybe this is the perfect year. There is no juggernaut team in the East where you're like, oh man, I'd be terrified to play them. And if there is, maybe that team is actually the Leafs.
You're right. And consider this too. You've seen Florida take the 2-0 lead on Tampa, but now we don't know about Barkov's situation. Clearly Florida is, and this is why you think about teams that are always in it and how hard it is to play 4 series back-to-back years and still have something left in the tank to then make another run the following year. Those guys have played a lot of tough hockey in the last 2 to 3 calendar years. And I think that the Leafs, when it comes to this time of year, they're probably fresher than most of their other opponents right now. And again, it's a game-to-game situation. But you'd have to say right now on paper, who is the healthier team between Toronto and Florida? It's Toronto. They're a healthier group right now. And I think that could end up being a really key element where it's not always necessarily the best or most talented team that wins. It's often the healthiest and the hottest. And the Leafs are both right now.
Fans in Toronto sports fans know that never is it possible to have everything going right with every team at the same time. As we come to the Toronto Blue Jays, who just finished a series against the Astros in which the Jays scored 2 runs in 3 games. They scored 2 total runs. What is going on with the Jays bats?
Well, a lot of questions right now, Dan, about where they're going long-term. They've done a lot of things in the last couple of years. They've switched hitting coaches. They brought in Santander. They brought in Jimenez. Jimenez, for a while, was their best hitter for the first couple weeks of the season. He has cooled off significantly. Santander has not really gotten going. And I think this stat, Dan, to me, is probably the one that stands out above the rest, is that over more than 200 combined at-bats so far this season, Vlad and Bo have combined for 1 home run. And at the end of the day, as much as George Springer's been the positive story of the year for the Jays, which has been amazing, he looks confident, he's catching up to the fastball again. He is, I think, transcended all expectations. It's really hard to win in that division when Vlad and Bo have combined for 1 home run, and we're almost through the month of April. And Santander hasn't clicked, and Jimenez has gotten cold. Still waiting on Varsho. There's just not, for me right now, Dan, enough to really hang on to with this lineup to know what you're going to get night to night. And Houston's a good team, but they're not a dominant team. And the Jays were struggling to produce against what I would describe as average to a little better than average pitching. It's in the middle ground right now. And that, to me, is very concerning. You look at the big picture here, Dan, and this team, even with extending Vlad, they're all in to win this year because, of course, it's the last year of Bo. Some of their pitching is getting closer to free agency, too. The Scherzer signing has not worked out yet. There's a lot of flaws with this team in a division where, if you're not careful, you can find yourself staring at a 5 or 6 game deficit really early on in the season.
But they have the buffer of the Leafs being in the playoffs, so whatever they're doing right now, no one is noticing.
Yes, so I would say this. So to the Jays bats, just make sure that you are ready and rolling by the time the Leafs play their final game. So we could say this. There is no more enthusiastic supporters of the Toronto Maple Leafs than the Toronto Blue Jays, because right now the Leafs are giving the city of Toronto and really all of Canada a good name, and they're giving the Jays some much-needed cover while they figure out this offense.
John, you're the best. We should mention what you started with, which was the Ann Arbor Games, which was kind of a mini Olympics that was played between my hometown of Peterborough, Ontario, and Ann Arbor, Michigan. And have we looked into it? Is it still happening?
Well, Toolsy, basically, the reason why I came on the show today was to announce formally that you and I are now the honorary co-chairman of the revival of the Ann Arbor Peterborough Games. We're going to do our very best to bring them back in a true multi-sport competition. You know, maybe using some momentum from the Four Nations and from the Olympics. But I'll tell you what, you and I need to make sure that we go to I have now as part of my goals for next season. We've got to go to a Peterborough Pete's game together. That's on my list. I've been to an OHL game now in London. I've been to one in Windsor recently. Of course, our two places in Michigan, Flint and Saginaw. But I need to get to a game in Peterborough. That is on my agenda for next season.
Well, I'm pretty sure, well, you won't see a playoff game. They didn't make the playoffs this year. The Peterborough Memorial Center is the oldest rink in the CHL, and it's so old that it's kind of great because you walk in and it smells like a hockey rink.
Yes, I love that. And I need to get to a game in Kitchener for the same reason. I know there's the inspiration for the Maple Leaf Gardens in the Odd there in Kitchener. So those are my two goals for next year, Toolsy. You and me, hopefully Kitchener, Peterborough doubleheader, and I can't wait. I'm super excited about it.
I love this. And there's a Jersey Mike's in Kitchener, one of the few in Canada. So I'm sold. Mr. Morosi, I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Dan. All the best.
Thanks for watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.